And you know, how much does that play into your mindset as you get ready to face this opponent?
Probably not too much for these players at this stage. You know, they've been playing against all amazing players over and over and over again, but of course it is a consideration. And Yuta is someone we haven't really been watching a lot so far.
He just quietly snuck up there,
Quietly
8-4.
Yeah, maybe not as quietly snuck up as last year, since, you know, Yuta did have a decent draft, but not anything special as far as records, but has now made his way back into contention for this top 4.
We're going to see turn 1 duress, getting rid of that Curious Obsession. Just one land here for Jakub Tóth. Does have the flashy Spectral Sailor that can hit the battlefield on the end step. Now, what do we see here for Yuta Takahashi? Has the Liliana, has Parhelion, and has Witherbloom Command in hand.
Yeah, pretty interesting to not want to have black-green mana open there to be able to maybe cast Witherbloom Command. Yuta's just saying, no matter what, no, I'm not going to cast it. You know, so it doesn't go with that. But now, wow, okay, so there is Greasefang, and now Yuta's got a few options here. Either Liliana, just play Greasefang. This is one matchup where normally you don't want to just leave Greasefang out there, because if it gets destroyed, then when you finally get Parhelion 2 into the graveyard, it does nothing. But Mono Blue is only going to bounce it, if anything, and not really destroy it.
Well, Mono Blue ain't doing nothing with only one island.
Yeah, yeah. And I believe this is back-to-back one-landers on the draw that we saw Jakub keep. But to be fair, both mulligans, agree with both of them.
Here we're discarding cards. Spectral Sailor number 2 in the bin for Jakub. And I wonder what Yuta's going to discard. Maybe a big old flying fortress?
I suppose discarding the really kind of the namesake combination there being a pretty strong one. And yeah, it's all ready to go for Yuta next turn. And as it stands, Jakub really needed that land to be able to at least interact with the powerful combo of Greasefang into Parhelion 2. So hitting the land, very important, but it's not even the best piece of interaction. It's not that counter spell to Greasefang. And with 3 cards being known, Yuta might just absolutely go for this, not really try to play around to anything, because neither of those 3 cards completely, you know, destroy the combination here.
Yeah, for sure. So we'll have most of the information available to him. The Brazen Bar is the only thing that can deal with Parhelion or the Greasefang, depending on how Jakub wants to disrupt what Yuta's got going here.
How you want to time that exactly. It'll be interesting, because you do have that option. You just bounce Greasefang before you go to combat, and then Parhelion 2 never comes into play, or you bounce it and, you know, before it gets crewed, and then it's back to your hand. With Liliana the Veil already in play, it is going to be able to be discarded again, depending if Yuta decides to activate it now or later.
Yeah. So just got to figure out what the best spot is to use this Petty Theft. The only thing available currently for Jakub to disrupt this combination. So here comes Greasefang, the Okiba boss.
This card has definitely been a boss here in Explorer. It's so powerful. We're seeing this combination just be extremely, extremely difficult to deal with.
Yeah, like if you don't have an answer for Greasefang on turn 3 when it hits before combat, you got some bad news bears coming at you, or should I say angels?
Bad news angels, yeah, absolutely. And now, since Liliana the Veil hasn't been active here, a nice heads-up play from Yuta. I think it does make a lot of sense to be able to just Petty Theft this now. Otherwise, you're giving Yuta an extra card to discard to Liliana the Veil, and, well, Yuta already has a few extra cards that he doesn't mind discarding, but 5 lands with Witherbloom Command and Greasefang for next turn can be important.
Yeah, so Liliana the Veil gonna force a sacrifice here. No discard necessary. So there goes the Spectral Sailor. Jakub doesn't seem too happy with that.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm wondering.
Judge!
Yeah, so we got a judge call here. We'll wait to see what happens.
Interesting. Things seem to be working on our end, but of course, you know, the perspective of Jakub could be different. We'll listen in.
Liliana of the Veil on me, and I still had half the rope left. And it just chose a random creature.
Oh, it just auto-chose.
Auto selected a creature there.
So I had half the rope left, and it chose.
I was still in the middle of the rope, and this just chose a random creature. I didn't click anything. Like, it doesn't really matter here, but like, this is the second time it happened to me on the feature material.
Okay, I will let them know.
Yeah.
So just getting that straightened out.
All right, says it doesn't matter in this situation. Hopefully not. But there goes the rope, and hopefully that won't happen again here for Jakub Tóth, as he's going to swing in here with Mausoleum Wanderer. Rattle Chains available in hand, as well as the Supreme Phantom, but Spell Pierce able to hopefully counter something here for him.
Yeah,
but
and
again, still doesn't have the lands.
Yeah, no hard counterspell, no Lawfully Denial is what is the real card that Yuta would be afraid of here. Spell Pierce able to maybe counter Witherbloom Command if Greasefang was cast first, but so far as it stands, Greasefang able to really do its Greasefangy things.
Greasefangy things indeed. Witherbloom Command is going to target the Mausoleum Wanderer. There is the Spell Pierce, like you mentioned, as well as the Rattle Chains in hand here for Jakub. He's going to pay the 2 here for the Rattle Chains.
Okay, Yuta gave a nice head nod there. That is definitely the indication that Yuta's pretty happy about that. Greasefang being the main thing that wanted to be resolved, and here it comes.
Yep, nothing that Jakub can do about it this time. Greasefang gonna take a look in the bin and see what goodies she can bring back, and it's the big old boat itself. Well, not the boat. The boat is the other
Flying boat?
No, yeah, flying fortress that likes to impart some angels upon the mono blue player.
Absolutely.
That is Jakub Tóth, and that is a lot of damage coming in. Down to 7 he goes.
Yep,
Parhelian's gonna go bye-bye, back to hand, but those angels stick around, and this is very difficult to come back from now.
Absolutely not impossible. You know, this is a very good combination of cards here, but not impossible to deal with. You do need some more petty thefts, but you need it right away. This is looking like it's going to be game number 1 going to Yuta. And, you know, it just kind of shows that this is not always the auto-win matchup that these Mono Blue Spirits players have been talking about. Games like this can just happen, especially during game 1 when the deck isn't focused enough to be able to deal with the combination.
Yep. So we're going to go to sideboard here. Just try and shake off that first game. And sideboard accordingly going into game number 2 here. So what's the plan for Mono Blue against Abzan and Greasefang game 2?
Yeah, so things usually don't change too much when you have a good matchup. Your sideboard is almost always geared at the matchups that are a little difficult, but things you still want to be bringing in. Slip out the back could be a consideration. More Brazen Borrowers that ends up being very strong, being able to be a creature and something that can bounce Greasefang to at least prevent it for a turn, or if Yuta doesn't have that way to discard immediately, bouncing Parhelion 2 can really be a very strong play.
Yeah, especially if there's no other way to get it back into the graveyard, then it's just an incredibly difficult thing to cast.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah, in fact, almost impossible. You know, really tough to get up to 8 mana.
Not
but
as
not
impossible
impossible.
as the Leyline of Combustion in the Mono Blue sideboard.
You know,
I'll just say.
You got me there. That one is very much impossible. Something I haven't seen so far today.
No.
Yeah.
No.
Something I very much wanted to see.
Well, to talk about seeing, Yuta is going to take a big old look here at Jakub's hand and see everything he has available to him. Brazen Borrower, Rattle Chains aplenty, as well as the Supreme Phantom. So possibly not the ideal hand he'd like. You know, no 1-drop, no permission spells right now.
Yeah, but the one thing that Jakub does have going for him this time is, well, didn't have to mulligan and now has 2 lands at least. That is a very important thing, and I want to bring a little attention to Yuta's hand, where we see that Briarbridge Tracker. That's one of the creatures in the board that plays this little bit of a fair game plan, where you can actually win the game by just attacking and still draws you a little bit of cards. So a nice little addition where you're not all in on this very good combo.
Oh man, more disruption here. Thoughtseize.
All right, Rattle Chain coming down. And it's pretty much all known information now, so
Yeah, let's get that eliminated. Rattle chains off the board.
Yeah, and as it stands, Jakub's draws here are just not the interactive draws. Once again, not the Curious Obsession draws that we haven't really seen, at least me and you as a pair. We have been seeing a little bit of that last round with Paul and Marshall given the call.
Goodness me. And on the other side of things, Yuta's just drawing gas. You know, Fatal Push, Thought Seize, he's got Liliana, he's got the Brybridge Tracker like you mentioned. And on the other side of things, Jakub has a way to slow Yuta down a little bit, but, you know, this isn't exactly something you want to be bouncing because it investigates, it gets a clue.
You saw Jakub look over a little bit and be like, is this in his deck? Oh, yeah, it is in the sideboard. Okay, you can just do some attacking. And now that is a really brutal one for Jakub to bounce. Do you want more value?
Yeah, it's like, okay, this, sure, it slows you down for a bit, but okay, maybe it's just a race situation now because Yuta has taking some damage, you know, so he is down to 16. Let's start racing. Get that clock going.
Yeah. And now just a really disappointing Supreme Phantom post-combat, which, you know, the removal spells, this could be a big turn here for Yuta. It's going to be interesting if Yuta wants to go with a hand disruption spell to make sure the way is cleared, or just try to resolve. In a perfect world, Yuta would just go Liliana plus Fatal Push, get rid of both threats, and that would be ideal. But with 2 cards in hand and this blue deck having so many counter spells, it makes a lot of sense that Yuta would respect that and fire off one of these hand disruption spells first.
Yeah, Yuta.
But thinking about it,
he's a measured player. He never does anything hastily unless he's playing mono red, which is rare.
Touche.
Yeah. But you know, like he's not just gonna fire off the easiest answer. Working with perfect information, we can see. Oh yeah, you're free and clear to do so.
Yeah.
But you know, respect the blue player always.
Exactly. Magic would be a lot easier if you had perfect information all the time. That's for sure.
So Thoughtseize, Duress, both available here. Does Yuta Takahashi think there is anything worth discarding in hand? So he's going to take a Duress, save the 2 points of damage, because that will start adding up.
Yes, absolutely. Really doing a long think about this.
Which one? Which one?
Yeah, and a quick reminder to these players that 10 wins is kind of that magic number that we're thinking. 11 is a lock. 10's looking pretty good. And with 2 rounds left, both players are in contention to make it to the biggest stage on Sunday.
Oh, you know, you want to be there. Only 4 players are going to make it through to tomorrow. Tomorrow is all standard, so these these Explorer decks are going to be shelved. Duress is going to see a whole lot of land, and that has got to make Yuta happy.
Definitely happy. You saw the head nod there, like, okay, that is great. But also, you know, in the back of their head, be like, okay, I had a much better sequence if I would have known that beforehand, but much better than 2 Lawfully Denials, let's say.
Sure,
you know, that could be a very difficult scenario for Yuta.
Now in consideration here, I wonder if he's going to go for the sacrifice on the Clue token and then Fatal Push the Brazen Borrower.
Yeah, that's an option, or just the Liliana negative and deal with one of these creatures, but I fancy your line a little bit better. The main creature you want to deal with is the Brazen Borrower. It's just a lot more pressure right now. An 11-turn clock, not too big of a deal.
Yeah, that sounds manageable for sure.
Yes.
You know, on the downside, though, it does lessen the power of the Brybridge Tracker. You know, but at the same time, you're still in a pretty commanding position. Mausoleum Wanderer, the draw here for Jakub, so does have another creature on the battlefield here.
Yeah, I think the whole goal of the Brybridge Tracker is to get your opponent down to 13, that magic number with Parhelion 2.
Oh, goodness me. Here comes Liliana the Veil. Sacrifice necessary here for Jakub Tóth. Mausoleum Wanderer is sent west. 2 points damage coming in, down to 14. He goes, and there's a combat research. Oh, that's some extra cards.
Yeah, combat
that
research,
also kills
a
Liliana.
different one, or an interesting one here. It could either just start drawing some cards. This is kind of Curious Obsession number 5. Not really as good as Curious Obsession, but still a very powerful card. Decides that dealing with Liliana is just more important and is going to hold combat research to just threaten some other card. But wow, Liliana the Veil number 2, if that gets fired off, is going to be huge. And here's the consideration for Yuta. If you go for Liliana and there was a Lawfully Denial, you could Heartless Act in response, but it would still counter it. So pretty much forced into Thought Seizing here because Liliana is so strong.
Yeah. So happy to lose the first Liliana. The second one is back up. is going to force the sacrifice once again here on Jakub Tóth. So not looking super good here, unfortunately.
Yeah, that's the one thing with these mono blue decks. They're extremely powerful at being proactive. But
Yeah.
once you're behind and you don't have anything on the battlefield and your opponent does have stuff and stuff in hand, you don't really have that one top deck where you're like, yes, this is really exactly what I needed. It's going to give me a bunch of card advantage. It's not really there. You need a sequence of draws to really get you back going.
Yeah, and card advantage, like you mentioned.
Oh,
this is just, for lack of a better term, this is just...
Well said.
Thank you.
Well said. I
Yep.
couldn't have said it better myself.
When words fail, sounds will suffice. As Liliana is just going to keep forcing the discard here, getting these useless cards out of hand, basically. And this Curious Obsession is just, unfortunately, hanging out. Here is Mausoleum Wanderer now. It might just have to end up being a blocker, but, you know, Heartless Act, ready and waiting. Yuta is going to clear the way and just keep smashing.
Are we going to see the Briarbridge tracker doing the full 20 damage here?
We may well. Oh, with a Bloom Command. Hey, that's nifty.
Yeah.
How convenient. There's a blocker in my way. Let
No.
me get the hints.
Now, what do we have in Graveyard to be able to find? So we can find just a land, not that big of a deal. You can just kill Mausoleum Wanderer. You could also just have the mode of lose 2 life, gain 2 life.
Sure, let's accelerate the croc. The croc. There's no crocodiles in this. The clock a little bit more.
Absolutely. Or just make sure you get it off the battlefield, tick up Liliana, because that Curious Obsession is an unknown card.
Yeah, I mean, I'm all for the kill the thing that's in my way. You know, let's get this game done. So here we go. We're going to get this Mausoleum Wanderer out of here one way or another. Force the payment here.
Yeah, and with 2 modes, you know, both modes, one mode will resolve even if the creature doesn't resolve.
Oh, that's a
kinda
good
how
land
these
to get
commands
back.
work. Yeah, absolutely.
However, the Eye Tyrant. Yes, please. I'd like a 3/3 Beholder.
Down to 6, and there's a Hive. Liliana
That's going to
didn't
be
even
all
get
but dunzos.
activated.
Yeah.
I think we're done here. I don't
Yeah.
see any combination of cards that can deal with both
Oh,
those
and
creatures.
the Chariot.
I bet we don't even see it. You
Probably
know?
don't, yeah. But it would
Yeah.
be the artifact necessary to get the extra 2 power.
That's a very good point.
Yeah, you can't do that and activate the Hive of the Eye Tyrant, unfortunately.
Yeah, the token does indeed make it stronger there. It is just really playing around Geist, you know, Geist Snare. If you wanted to be able to play 3, so that's the cost there. If Geistlight Snare is in the hand, this play is much worse. If
Yeah.
it's Spell Pierce, this play is much better, and Yuta has the good read. The one thing here, if there was a counter spell, Briarbridge Tracker would put Jakub down to 4, and then Hive plus Briarbridge Tracker would finish it off next turn.
Yeah. Inevitability is certainly on the side here of our reigning world champion, Yuta Takahashi, as this Briarbridge Tracker is going to deal 4 points of damage to Jakub. Down to 2 he goes. What is the draw? Spell Pierce. Yeah, give it to the cat. The cat wants something. Curiosity killed the cat. Unfortunately, that's not the case. We're going to Spell Pierce our own spell. Go out in his own way, in a sense, being like, here, this is what I had. Have a look-see.
Yep. Absolutely, and this
Oh,
matchup
man.
playing out just like we said. You know, Greasefang has such a good matchup against the mono blue.
Yeah.
No, not really, not a good
No.
matchup at all. But this can happen, and this is indeed the second time that we saw Greasefang take down mono blue. So it just
Yeah.
kind of shows the ceiling on this Abzan Greasefang deck is very high,
Yeah.
and that combination is very good.
Yeah, and a pretty convincing victory there for our reigning world champion. He's got to be feeling pretty darn good now.
Yes.
9-4. Look at him. He's just like psyching himself up a little bit. He's like, all right, I can do this. I can get to day 3 at the next world championship.
Exactly.
I can do it again.
Both of these players being at XN3, so next round is likely going to be that win and in situation, or at least win and pray,
Yeah.
and just really hope that you're
Win
able
and
to,
pray.
and then make it to the Sunday competition here. But